All right, hello and welcome everyone. Today is November 11th, 2021. Thank you for joining us for our biweekly CSI Secrets Store call. Just as a reminder, this call is governed by the CNCF Code of Conduct. You can find the Code of Conduct file in the repo. And with that, we'll go ahead and start our call. We'll go down to the items here in the agenda. And let's see, no major announcements. I'm sorry, Nilek, is that you?
Oh no,
Tommy?
that was me. I was gonna just start the first discussion, but
Yeah. Go ahead, Tommy. Go for it. We're going to talk about the file permissions, and we got an issue here.
Yep. So there's a few feature requests for file permissions. I've done some investigation on it, and I think there are pretty much no driver changes that would be needed to support it, but providers would need to change some things. So I'm going to try that out on the GCP one, and then if successful, we can introduce a new default field into the secret provider class schema to give so that providers wouldn't have to implement it, but users could change the default file permissions of all files.
So do we want to do it where providers have it as part of their schema, and then if users ask, we move it to secret provider class?
I first want to just test out that it works, and I might not push the feature to a GCP release, but I think if it works, then we can discuss whether or not we want providers to implement something, or if we go ahead and just do it in the driver. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think the one advantage I see with the provider implementing it is if they have multiple files and they only want to edit the permission for a single file, then they have the flexibility to do that. But if we add it as part of secret provider class, it basically applies to all the files.
Correct. Yeah.
And we won't have to, and actually me and Anish, we were discussing this. If we do it from as a part of provider, we don't have to do any code changes on the driver side, correct? Because we are already receiving the file permission from the provider.
Correct. I do not believe that the driver needs any changes for providers to implement different file system permissions. Correct. The next item that I brought up, or bullet point, is that the mounts are still read only. So some permissions like deleting a file wouldn't work. That would require driver work. But I just assigned that to myself to create a separate GitHub issue to investigate read-only mounts separately from this.
Okay.
Right. Thanks.
Also, one other thing was in terms of validation, do we want to do any validation on the provider end for permissions to see if it's a valid permission? So I was thinking if there are some kind of validations that we want to perform before allowing it, there are two places we can do it. Like if we are implementing this in the provider can validate and then reject the request right there, or it can basically send it back to the driver, and then driver can be the single point of validation. So the driver can say, I'll do it. But I think doing it at the provider will help us reduce the number of calls. Like if the file permissions are completely bogus, then at least we can avoid making the external API calls. And if there are any validations we want to do you think there would be value in adding that to the driver and then using the driver as a library in the providers so that we know all the providers are doing the same kind of validation?
I'll just add that as a note.
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay. You're filling it there. I was filling it in the notes.
Oh, okay. You can fill it in the notes. I think we'll just take that as a note to look into
Okay.
of whether or not. Yeah, I think the value is just like an integer that's passed through, but I don't remember off the top of my head. So like, are you talking like what kind of validation? Just like whether or not that it's a correct like octal number
Right.
or like okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a valid file permission, basically.
Um,
There are
Right.
like those octal generators. So I think it should be pretty reverse process of that. I mean, pretty simple, I think. But yeah, we can check it out.
Right. Next up, rotation.
Yeah.
Issue here.
I just added that. I just linked to Anish's draft PR. I think this is one of the rotation was just one of the features that I think we wanted next to try to get to a GA status or like a 1.0 status. And this is like a prereq for it, but just wanted to bring that up.
Okay.
Anish has been working on that.
Yeah, I mean, so this is the initial validation works. Like I was able to generate the token and basically do what the CSI driver, when the CSI driver gets called, what it gets in terms of tokens. And then one other thing that I was thinking about was in terms of running load tests, this can generate quite a bit of token request calls. So I was discussing that with Tommy to see if we want to implement some kind of caching. So maybe we can implement a cache with the UID as a key. But I think there are the certain aspects of the cache that we need to take care of. Like it has to be a TTL based cache so that we don't keep the entry for longer. So I'm trying to write up something for that so that I can post that here as part of the PR. So that is one other push. And then once I do that, I'll make it ready for review.
Cool.
All right. Nice. We are speeding through this. All right. I guess the last thing is, new timing. So, maybe we can make this not so early for our West Coast people. I know initially we were trying to ensure that it wasn't going to be too late for anyone that was joining in Europe. But let's go ahead and do this. We'll put a poll out in the Slack channel and see, if we can get a consensus on a better start time for this meeting and go from there.
Oh yeah, I just found out it's the Doodle poll, the Doodle.com.
Yeah, Doodle. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. So yeah, we can shoot that out here probably after this meeting, maybe once we send the recording up, and then put the poll out. All right, so we got through that. I don't know, is there anything from last meeting? I saw there was a ton of discussion here. Is there anything to follow up from the meeting that happened back in October? The one, I guess, yeah, right after KubeCon.
Yeah, I think in that one, basically we went over what was the thing. So I think Tommy had pointed out that the project is 1.0 and then there are certain features which are in alpha. And we basically talked about where they're going to go from alpha to like, are they going to be graduated soon or are we looking at having something different, right? And then the rotation was one thing that we definitely want to graduate to stable. So that is what we are working on right now, basically having token requests in the driver. And then once we do that, we switch to requires republish. And when both of that is available, we can start graduating to beta and stable. So like the rotation has a path forward. And then in terms of sync implementation, we've talked about this before too, right? Where we want to decouple the mount and the sync is Kubernetes secret rather than forcing the user to do both of it just for the environment variable. So that warrants a proposal. Like basically that's what Sigoth asked for. So the next step for sync as Kubernetes secret is continue working on the proposal, get it to a good shape, and then go back to SIGAuth and present it. So like that's something that we'll work over the next couple of iterations. And once we have an approval from SIGAuth, then we can basically like go and take it out of the driver and have that as a separate functionality. So that is what sync is going to go through.
And that's the whole decoupling process of the project. Okay. All right. So I think that's it. I'm not sure if there's any issues out here lately that we want to look at or that was interesting to anyone.
Yeah, the first one seemed interesting, like restricting syncing of secrets to certain namespaces. I mean, I was thinking it can be as simple as just defining it in the service account custom role. Basically, like today we say we want secret sync permission across all the namespaces, right? And if you want to restrict it, I think it can be as simple as just adding the namespaces that you want to sync. So we only have permissions in those namespaces, and if you try to sync in any other namespace, it will fail. But that was my initial thought, like maybe we could do that.
But we need to figure it out a way to bubble that up, that white field. Maybe like a warning or something, or I don't know. Like, I mean,
Yeah, so
we should tell user like white field basically.
So we do that and we do it as part of the pod events, right? Like today it already gets bubbled up as a pod event. Like when you look at kubectl describe pod, it shows up there.
Ah, right, yep.
It might just be a good use case to keep in mind on the syncing changes or proposal of unless they want to contribute, not do too much to the existing implementation. If we have plans to change the existing one significantly.
Sounds good. Yeah, but the Helm chat ARM64 support, I responded to it because I think we already support ARM64 for the drivers, but they also said they're using AWS, so it's possible it's just something specific to the AWS providers. The driver and the driver CRDs that we built today is supported for ARM64.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if we come back with. Let's see, automate PR creation. Okay, this is you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we didn't have a lot.
This one's interesting, but is this going to be, this is more for the Azure provider, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I've already pinged them on that and told them to open an issue and the other repo.
Okay, yeah, some of these get dated also.
Yeah, but I'm also working on adding like some debugging and diagnostics capability to the other sidecars that we use. Like for node driver register, I recently added pprof because as I was running load tests, I was seeing it was consuming way more memory than it requires. Like it's a very small process, so it was just surprising. So I've been doing that so that like we can profile and see like if there are any improvements there that we can make. Because in terms of load, like our driver container is consuming a lot lesser than node driver register, which is very surprising. Because we are doing a lot more compared to the registrar. So.
Got it. Okay. Right. So I think that's it. I guess one thing to chat about. So exactly 2 weeks from now is actually Thanksgiving. So the meeting will fall on the holiday. So we will not have a meeting on the 25th. So I'm assuming we'll just pick up December 9th, which will be 2 weeks after the Thanksgiving holiday here in the US. And with that, I guess we're done unless anyone has any additional comments or anything else they would like to discuss. Okay, I think we're done. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll post this video up as soon as possible. We'll put the poll out to see if there's any changes to when we should have this meeting time-wise. And if you're in the US, enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday coming here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see everyone back in December on the 9th.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Thank you all.
Bye bye.